Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us this afternoon for our Ingram Micro Cloud Elevate webinar, all the updates on the Microsoft Cloud. My name is Craig I'm the National Sales Manager for the Ingram Micro Cloud Australia team, and joining me today for the Microsoft update is Robert Crane, our resident Microsoft MVP and Director at CIA Ops. So just to give you a bit of a quick agenda on what we'll be covering today, so I'm going to hand you over very shortly across to Rob, and Rob's going to give us everything that's new in the world across the Office 365 and Azure platforms. Then I'm going to give you a bit of a preview on our new Ingram Micro Infrastructure as a Service framework that we've been just recently launched, including our EasyAzure program. And then just take you on a quick demo of the new features that we have on our cloud marketplace for provisioning and managing and invoicing the Azure services on our cloud marketplace. And then just give you a quick brief overview of some of the things that we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks. But for now, let me hand you over to Rob. Rob, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me, Craig?
I've got you loud and clear, Rob.
Excellent. All right, so let's kick off with some news from the world of Microsoft. So Microsoft has been busy generating some more revenue. Basically, the last quarter, it's generated $6.6 billion worth of income over a revenue of $24 billion. So again, this has now pushed Microsoft above its $20 billion annual cloud run rate. So that was the mark it was looking to hit by the end of 2018. So it's hit that a quarter early. Now its cloud run rate is its cloud properties, typically Office 365, Azure, and whatnot. So if you dig into the figures a little bit, what you basically will see is that Office 365 is continuing to grow. It's now at 120 million active commercial subscribers, and it's growing basically revenue-wise about 42% by quarter. Also with the figures this time was LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has contributed about $1.1 billion to the Microsoft bottom line as well, and the figures show it's growing at about 20% as well. And we've got some information about how that's beginning to integrate into Office 365. Now, don't forget that the Fall Creators update for Windows 10 has now launched. It's now rolling out. If you haven't already got it, you should be able to get it very shortly. And the Fall Creators update gives us a number of improvements to the platform, and probably the biggest one, like I said, is the OneDrive files on demand, which we'll again cover in an upcoming slide. So again, make sure that you get the update and get all your customers up to date with the latest one there. So again, if you haven't got it, make sure that you go out and do download it, have a look at it, and see the enhancements it does provide. Now, next week, a big week for Microsoft in Sydney. We've got the Microsoft Business, Tech and Partner Summit. So a number of summits that are running concurrently at Darling Harbour in Sydney. If you're in the Microsoft world, certainly the place to be. Lots of sessions there. As you've signed up already, you should be able to create your agenda. There'll be obviously stands from Ingram, so pay the Ingram guys a visit. Also, I'll be there, so if you can catch up with me, that'd be great. But again, if you do have the opportunity, please, I would suggest you come along, get some idea of the direction that Microsoft's taking, and a lot of really good in-depth technical sessions for developers, techs, and so on. So I really recommend that you have a look at that. And again, the Tech and the Business Summit are free. The partner one does cost, but if you have a competency, you have a number of free tickets. So if you can get along, highly recommend it, and it'll be really worth your while. Next slide. So some Office 365 information now. Office 365, again, is now incorporated into Microsoft 365 Business. Now, the good news is that the Microsoft 365 Business product has launched. It was available on trial from the 1st of August, but come the 1st of November, you can actually buy it and put it into customer tenants. So what is Microsoft 365 Business? Well, basically, it is Office 365 Business Premium, Windows 10 Pro, and the best of EMS, the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite, rolled into a single license. So this means that your users can obviously get up to date and also manage and control all their devices. Now, Microsoft also has a Microsoft 365 Enterprise that has been available since August, so that is also available to be purchased, and that includes the enterprise versions of Office 365, Windows 10, and the full version of EMS and Intune. Now, the big advantage I think that Microsoft 365 Business gives you is that you're going to be able to go out there and protect the devices that customers are using mostly out in the field there, so the Android devices, iOS, and Windows 10 devices. We also get the ability, for example, to use the Windows Autopilot facility, which allows us to basically provision, roll out, and configure Windows 10 devices directly out of the box across the internet without needing them to connect to a local Active Directory. Now, the good thing about Microsoft 365 Business is that there still is a trial available. You can speak to the people at Ingram and get it pushed into a tenant, and you can have a look and have a play with that. So certainly I think a big product, something that Microsoft is very focused on. Make sure that you are across exactly what Microsoft 365 Business brings to the table. Next, please. Okay, so again, some more stuff from the world of SharePoint. Now, what we've got is a lot of improvements, updates, and additions to the SharePoint environment. So we've got new ways to look at videos. We've got integrated Yammer feeds. Now, the way that we get those into our pages in SharePoint is via something called web parts. Think of these as widgets that you embed on a dashboard-style page. So if you want to embed a Yammer feed, you go in and you add the Yammer web part, and that will then display a Yammer feed, for example. Now, initially there was probably, I suppose, 25 or so that we've had web parts, but as you can see, that has expanded quite dramatically. In SharePoint, there's now a huge range of additional web parts that are available, and that ability will be rolling out to first release tenants very shortly. So this is going to allow you to create pages very quickly and very easily, again, and surface information that is important to the organisation. So you'll be able to embed files, Power BI graphs, all sorts of that, and using the new modern interface, it's going to make it look much better and work much easier. The other thing to keep in mind also is the new ability to embed Microsoft Forms, and we're also going to see Power Apps very shortly also coming to SharePoint. So that means you'll be able to create custom fields and custom forms that people can complete and then back-end them into SharePoint directly. So again, if you're working with SharePoint and you're looking to create intranets for customers, this is a very easy way to do that. You just basically embed the web part into the page and then connect it up to the other server. So again, makes life very simple and allows you to create an intranet very, very quickly. Next, please. Okay, so along with the launch of Microsoft 365 Business, there has been some additional options and services added to the Business Premium product. So if you have Microsoft 365 Business or Business Premium, you will get the ability for these new services. So as you can see there, we have listings, connections, customer manager, invoicing, bookings, MileIQ, and this is all rolled together into a single business center. Now, the thing to say here is that some of these services at the moment are limited to places like the US, Canada, and the UK. So, for example, MileIQ is a way to capture your travel information, so your kilometrage, and again, at the moment, at this stage, it's only available in those markets, but they certainly expect it to roll out to the worldwide audience very shortly. So the aim of these tools is to give people using the Business Premium license in Office 365 the ability to go in and use something like listings to put their business on Facebook and the search engines, and again, they can manage all of that from a single location inside their Office 365. They can use the Connections one to basically do email marketing. So rather than using something like MailChimp or some other third party, they can do that directly within their Office 365 using a simplified console. And again, integrating that with the Customer Manager, that gives you a very basic CRM. So again, it allows you to manage the relationships with customers and manage their emails, their meetings, the notes, reminders, deadlines, all that sort of stuff in, again, one simple interface. Now, we're seeing that Dynamics 365 obviously is also becoming available to a lot of people, but a simplified version is Microsoft Invoicing. So Again, think of this a bit like, I suppose, like FreshBooks. This is a way to quickly create estimates and invoices, give them a nice professional look and feel, and again, have that all integrated directly into a console and allow you to track the payment and whether people open these and view them. We've got Bookings. Bookings has been around for a short while. This allows you to create a calendar in which the public can come in and book items for your calendar. So again, if people are selling services based on time or dates, you can publish that calendar externally and take and manage bookings. So very, very handy little ability to do that. And as I mentioned, it's all being rolled up into a single business center that's included in the portal, so you can manage and look at all of these. Now, as I mentioned at this stage, the only two SKUs that include these new apps are Microsoft 365 Business and Office 365 Business Premium. They aren't available in the enterprise SKUs as yet. Microsoft basically is saying that they're going to work to bring these apps to all the plans, but as yet they're only available in the Business Premium and the Microsoft 365 Business. Next, please. So again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the big advantages of moving to the full Creators Update of Windows 10 is you now have the ability to do OneDrive files on demand. So this basically means that you can choose whether the files that you sync remain in the cloud or are actually stored and synced on-prem. Now, what it gives you, firstly, is the ability to see all your files. So if you synchronize your OneDrive or your document library in SharePoint online, then you can see the complete list of files without having to download them all to the desktop. So again, it gives you that ability to easily see what's up there, get a catalog, get a directory, and then to work on a file locally, all you do is double click on it and that will bring it down locally and keep it in sync. And then if you want to, you can right mouse click on that and push it back up to the cloud to save space. So again, this will be an automatic update for customers. They shouldn't see anything once they upgrade to the full Creators Update. There is some information there. If you do wish to force the upgrade, you certainly can do it, but the prerequisite is always going to be the Windows 10 full Creators Update. Okay, so make sure that you do have that on your machine, and then you should be able to do this OneDrive on demand. Next, please. So another OneDrive update that I did mention last month, but it's worth reiterating, is now the ability that's coming is the option here to restore your OneDrive. Okay, so basically what you can do is you can now select a range of files back to 30 days, and you can restore those selections to that point in time. So this is really handy for customers who maybe have hit by crypto locker. You can go through and select a range of files here, roll them back to what they were previously. So it doesn't replace the recycle bin. Basically what it means is it provides you a bulk ability to be able to target files and then bring them back directly to your OneDrive or your customer's OneDrive. So a handy little feature. Watch out for that rolling out very shortly. And again, the way that you get these latest features is also to make sure that you are on the first release for Office 365, which we can do by basically going into your tenant and configuring either everybody or a select group of users to be on first release so they see the new items as they become available. So lots and lots of updates coming out for OneDrive, improved sharing, the OneDrive on demand, the OneDrive updates here that we've got the ability to restore. So make sure that you are across these, and they're going to prove very popular with customers, I would suggest. Next, please. Okay, so Microsoft is also now going to make some changes to the app launcher in Office 365. So as you see here, it's changing to a nice white interface. You'll see that the icons and the name of the app will appear here. Underneath that will be a list of recently accessed documents. So the idea here is that it is aligning its consumer Outlook and its consumer services, Office.com, with the Office 365. So you'll still be able to go in and make customizations if you need to, update the number of icons there. But again, the whole thing here is the idea is it's designed to be an easier interface for users to work with, a more intuitive way of approaching that. So I haven't seen that roll out in my tenant as yet. So again, keep an eye on that. I'm sure it's beginning to roll out as we speak. Now, one of the other things that Microsoft is doing is integrating the app launcher into the Windows 10 launcher. So what that means is you'll be able to hit the start button on your PC. You'll be able to run a search in your Cortana or in your search box there. And then basically what that will do is that will then search your local, but also your Office 365 environment as well. So this integration of the Windows 10 environment and Office 365 is moving much closer together. So again, some information there, have a look at. There's a good video that gives you a closer, in-depth look at some of the changes that are coming to the app launcher shortly. And again, make sure that you speak to your customers and let them know this sort of change is coming, because it may be a little bit confronting for them if the change happens overnight when they're not expecting it. Next, please. So as I mentioned, LinkedIn is now part of the Microsoft umbrella. It's contributing quite nicely to the revenues, and Microsoft is now bringing the integration of the product into things like Office 365. So you can now potentially go in and connect up your LinkedIn to Office 365. Now what that means is that when you look at a contact card in Office 365 in their profile, or when you mouse over a file or whatever, you'll now see an additional option to also view their LinkedIn information. So Microsoft obviously is keen to bring that sort of information into its environment to give more value around search. And again, the same thing is when you do a search, it will not only search your Office 365, if you've connected your LinkedIn, it will also search across there. So think about this idea with the Business Premium contacts. This integration with LinkedIn is certainly going to provide a lot of value, and there's no cost to doing that. It's just a configuration that you need to do in your tenant to go in and allow the connection to LinkedIn. So it will allow you to connect into things like Outlook and SharePoint and pull information from there, and as I said, also be able to do search. So again, make sure that you look at that and go and enable it for customers who are keen to get access to the LinkedIn information, and a good example of how Microsoft is sort of bringing its properties together and interfacing them to get the most value for their customers. Next, please. All right, so not to be forgotten is our friends who do have Macintoshes. So finally, in my opinion, Outlook for Mac now supports the ability to send to OneNote. So you should see shortly, if you update your Office on your Mac, there is the ability now in your Outlook to go in and send that to OneNote. So that's a great way to capture information. Information from emails you can now send to OneNote quickly and easily now. The other thing that it does illustrate here is that a lot of people mistakenly believe that Microsoft is only purely focused on Windows. It's certainly the priority Microsoft has, its Windows platform, which makes sense, but you'd be surprised at how quickly it is updating the products it brings to Mac, because they're becoming closer and closer, I think, in functionality, and it's much easier to develop. So if you have customers with Mac or using Mac yourself, make sure that you go regularly and check for updates, because I'm on the fast ring on my Mac, and I'm getting updates pretty much every week, and they're major updates. So again, the parity between Mac and Windows is getting smaller. You're still going to lose some functionality that's not there in a Mac versus a Windows PC, but I think that gap is getting much smaller, and I also think that, again, the features there will cover the vast majority of users. So again, the message there for those who like OneNote and their Outlook is you can now send directly to it, and the wider message is make sure that you're updating your Mac regularly to get all the latest features, as they are happening very, very quickly. Next, please. All right, so let's get in and talk about some Azure news here. Now, for those of you who spend a good portion of your day running up machines in Azure to do testing, like I do, you'll be pleased to know that the latest version of Windows Server 2016, 1709, is now available. Now, the big benefits here, again, all partners generally get free Azure credits, so you can go in and you can spin up test machines, you can spin up virtual environments. You can do site-to-site VPNs and all sorts of stuff. Now, what this is a great test environment. If you really want to find out what's going on or see what the latest features are, my advice to you is to spin it up in Azure. Again, you can save the cost, obviously, by shutting the Azure machine down when you're not using it and only pay for the time that it's running. But using things like the Windows Server versions that are available in Azure and potentially even Windows 10 means that you can really test some of this stuff out. So, again, if you're looking to get up to speed more with Windows Server, again, the great news is the latest stuff is available now in Azure in the virtual machine, so you can certainly spin that up and find that in the Azure marketplace. So if you haven't had a look, go in and spend a few moments and have a look what is available in the Azure marketplace. Not only Windows servers, you've got Linux machines, you've got devices, you've got all sorts of stuff in there. And again, it really makes a great testbed environment, even if you use it only for that function. Next, please. Okay, so I found this little article here, which I think is very, very good. Basically, it takes you through some troubleshooting steps when it comes to VM performance issues. Now, obviously, when you run up a VM in Azure, hopefully it all works well and you don't have any performance issues, but some of the performance issues could be around things like incorrect configuration, maybe there are some errors in there, or something didn't get provisioned correctly or whatever. So this blog post, although short, has got some great links in there that basically take you through the basics of, okay, is this working? Have I checked this? I can run a couple of tools here. I can look where bottlenecks may be. It'll show you how to turn on and enable the diagnostic extensions, so you can add these extensions into your virtual machines and then they'll start spitting back logs into Azure, and then you can analyze those in much, much greater depth. So again, really, really handy little thing, and it not only talks about Windows machines, but you'll also find troubleshooting concepts here for Linux. So don't forget that Azure also supports running Linux machines. So if you're working with VMs, I think this is a good little blog post to go and have a look at and basically add all the links that are listed there into your own troubleshooting documentation. Next, please. So Azure Information Protection. Okay, so Azure Information Protection is part of the Enterprise E3 and E5 in Office 365. It's part of the Microsoft 365 in Intune, and basically it provides identity protection and also data protection. So you can protect your identities better and you can also protect your documents better. So typical things would include rights management, also conditional access, and again, this blog post here gives you a list of all the document updates that have happened for the Azure Information Protection Service for October. Now, if you spin through the actual blog post, you'll see that there are lots and lots of items that have been updated here, right? So the good thing about Microsoft is that it really is trying to work hard on making sure that its documentation is up to date on the web, and this blog post will really point you in the right direction on how to keep things up to date. So again, if you want to migrate from the older rights management service to the newer information protection service, there are documents there showing you how to do that. And again, remember that that will also work on a Macintosh environment. So again, one of the really cool things you can do with information protection is you can go in and you can start creating labels which have different levels of security around them that you can apply to your documents in different areas within Office 365. So this will show you examples. It will show you how to set it up and configure it. So the growth of Microsoft 365 is going to mean more and more need for knowledge in the things like Azure Information Protection and Intune. So again, great little blog post to really get you up to date with all the announcements that came from Ignite, and again, work through that and pick and choose what makes sense to you. But like I said, lots and lots of updates in there for you to have a look at. Next, please. Now, one of the favoured tools to manage things in the Microsoft environment is PowerShell. Now, with, again, Microsoft 365 coming out, we now have Intune being pushed out and used to manage our devices rather than group policy. and it's now good to see that Microsoft has released a management extension for the Intune that is going to allow you to effectively embed PowerShell scripts into Intune that will execute when the machine runs. So again, think of these like boot up scripts or scripts that you can push out with group policy. Again, they're just standard PowerShell. You add them to the policy in Intune, and then when the machine boots up and executes that policy, that will run that PowerShell script. So this is really going to provide the ability to do just about anything on the desktop. So you'll be able to write a PowerShell script, maybe that changes the background wallpaper or configures a number of shortcuts or removes icons or whatever. You're going to be able to do this. So again, have a look at this blog post and see how Microsoft is working to use something like Intune combined with PowerShell to allow you to effectively push out policies and configure machines anywhere they are on the internet. So remember that Intune and the mobile device management, or the modern device management as Microsoft is now calling it, is the new way and a sort of replacement from the cloud for group policy. So group policy will certainly work, but is very limited in the fact that it only works where there's domain controller, which means it typically only works within a networking LAN environment, whereas Intune and those sort of tools now can execute from anywhere that there is internet to make sure that the device is compliant. And now with this extension, you can run just about any PowerShell script that you want. Next, please. So we have also conditional access policies for information protection. So basically with information protection or rights management, you could embed the permissions inside the document, which meant that wherever it traveled on the internet, that document remained protected and within your control. Now what they've added to this now is also the ability to control where those documents can be accessed from. So again, if you had a user who did have the rights to access that document, potentially they could access it in an appropriate area. Maybe they're in a Qantas club or somewhere that's public that would allow people to view that information, or an insecure network. Well, now what you can do is you can also add the ability to restrict where these documents are actually controlled from. So you can enforce things like multi-factor authentication. So that means when the user opens the document, they have to log in and use multi-factor authentication. You can restrict it so the files are only opened on compliant devices or machines that are domain joined. And they also prevent risky sign-ins, and they also allow you to nominate trusted networks in which those documents can be opened. So now we have the ability to protect the documents' logins, but we've also got the ability also to protect the locations from which those documents may be opened from. So adding more protection, as you can see with the screenshot here, this shows you a failed error, basically saying that the document that was attempted to be opened couldn't be because it's not in an appropriate location to do that. So again, really, really powerful when you start thinking about the ability to control documents no matter where they are on the internet, all via a single policy. And as I said, the information protection part of Azure is included in some extent in E3 and E5, but is extended further with Azure AD Premium and also Microsoft 365 Enterprise. Next, please. So this is a great announcement. It means that all of those people out there who want to use a supercomputer to do more Bitcoin mining can do so, because Cray supercomputers are coming to Azure. So imagine a virtual machine that is effectively a Cray supercomputer under the covers. Is going to really allow you to sort of crunch some numbers. Now, maybe not so relevant in the SMB space, but it certainly does indicate the power that is available to you in an Azure subscription. So again, bigger environments not having access to supercomputers or not wanting to run them, maintain them, again, they'll just be able to use them as a subscription directly via the Azure. So again, imagine the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, all these sort of services that really require deep number crunching, being able now to access the resources and the power of something like the Cray supercomputer. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, if you're really keen to understand how Azure is going to bring these to the environment and what potentially you can do with them, again, have a look at that announcement there. But it's pretty exciting, I think, at the high end. And like I said, plenty of opportunities are being created in that space, especially for, machine learning, big data, those sort of areas where you've got to crunch a lot of numbers. Next, please. So Microsoft has also announced an Azure Migrate service. As you can see, it's in preview at the moment. This will allow you basically to go in and assess your on-prem environment and quantify what virtual machines you need, what CPU should be running, what sort of memory. You're going to be able to get help with your projects, a bit like Fast Track, I suppose, if you've used Fast Track, and it's also going to help you to do the migration much easier. So again, at the moment, it's a limited preview, which you would need to request, but again, if you're looking to do large amounts of data or machine migrations into Azure, again, it might be worthwhile doing this while it's in preview. Obviously, there won't be any cost, I don't believe, while it's in preview. And again, you can also use tools like Azure Site Recovery. There's also database migration services. So this rolls it up all nice and tidy for you. And I think, again, there's a lot of back-end support that Microsoft are making available, because obviously they're keen to get more people and more businesses to use their environment. So again, I think this is a service that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's very much like the Fast Track that we've seen for Office 365. So if you're looking to do this, go in, have a look at the URL, and again, see if that will suit your needs. Next, please. So one of the really good things that Azure does is that Azure has a security center which sits above any resources in Azure, so that if you've got 5 or 6 virtual machines, all of those logs are being fed into the Azure environment. Now, sitting in the Azure environment is also something called the Azure Security Center. Now, what that will allow you to do is it will allow you, when you potentially see something that has suspicious activity, you'll be able to dig into the logs at a low level and potentially locate exactly what the problem is or where it was occurring. So the important thing here to understand is that all the stuff in Azure basically is reporting to the Azure Security Center, which gives you a nice dashboard that allows you to then drill in further to notice any issues or any problems or any security vulnerabilities you may have. So the big advantage here is because it's one platform, again, you're going to get that dashboard, you're going to get that overview, you're going to get that all that logging happening automatically for you. So again, have a look at this blog post. Gives you a bit of an idea of how you can use the searching ability in the Azure Security Center to find any suspicious activity. Next, please. That's fine. All right, the last one I've got here for you is some monitoring resources, some tools and technologies. So once we start putting things into Azure, again, how do we monitor? What's the best practice? So again, this will take you through another global Azure service called Azure Monitor. Okay, so we've got Azure Security, we've also got Azure Monitor. So the logs and all that sort of stuff will be feeding into Azure Monitor. That will give you a single pane of glass across all the resources, backups, VMs, blobs, SQL, all of that in one location. So again, this will show you how to take advantage of that. You'll also be able to understand how to get the activity logs, the diagnostic logs. You'll be able to see how to configure metrics and also alerts so that you'll get information when things fall out of spec. There's also the Azure Network Watcher, so you can put basically, like a monitoring thing on your network that's already built in to Azure for you. So that will monitor the topology for you, the IP flow, and allow you to look at the security groups. And potentially, if you want, it can go in and do packet capture and verify the connectivity as well. Now, if you're developing applications, you'll see the blog post also talks about how you can monitor your applications, your web apps, and then get into things like log analytics. So again, there's also mention of the Security Center, and again, really good blog post to give you this overview concept of what's available in Azure and how to really start using these global services, which are part of the service, to really aggregate the information from the resources that you do have in Azure to make your life easier when it comes to monitoring and maintaining. All right, with that, Craig, I think I'm done.
Fantastic. That's great, Rob. Thank you for that update. And now I just wanted to kind of take partners through just what it means when we're talking about our infrastructure as a platform and Azure as a platform. Because more and more we have more partners coming to us asking us about how to get started with Azure, how we can help them engage with working with partners and some of the tools, just like Rob has been talking about, that are available and where to start. So when you're talking to our team, and we're talking around the particularly infrastructure as a service, this is the kind of framework that we start to look at. And really, a lot of what we've been doing, obviously today and with the bootcamps, is around that partner enablement, making sure that partners are up to play with new features on Azure that are coming out, some of the programs, some of the trainings, etc. And I'm going to take you through what we call our new EasyAzure program that will show you some of the ways that you can get some of our on-demand content, get access to some of Rob's content as well, to start really getting in and getting up to play with some of that kind of 101 stuff with Azure. Now, as we start to work through there, we've actually also got our pre-sales engineers here, as well as our account managers and BDM teams, to really sit down with you and start looking at some of the analysis on what partners have got customers that might make sense moving to Azure, whether it be backup or remote desktop server, or looking at migrating across from small business server. A lot of what we've been talking around with Rob and some of the boot camps and the trainings that we've been doing. And look, it still does take a lot of kind of technical discovery, understanding what they do and how they do it, and having access to some of those tools around seeing what requirements are there to bring across workloads and migration services, etc. So even if you're just looking at maybe it's your first or second project, and maybe it's just a smaller RDS server, etc., by all means, make sure you reach out to the team, and we can run you through some of the pre-made solution templates that we have, some of the step-by-step guides, and we also, again, have a team that can sit down with you, help you do those requirements, help speak to the customers around what they need and what it might look like to move across to Azure. And then by all means, once we've gone through that, we've looked at the configuration, we've looked at how that migration might work, done the testing, and we actually go ahead with the deployment. By all means, that's not where we finish. We've obviously got our technical team around first and second level. We've also got the ability to help get you onto some of the higher tier advanced partner support plans with Microsoft in there as well, all really depending on things like SLAs, etc. So this is just a general framework of some of the steps that we take our partners through, whether you're starting off as a 101 all the way right through to you're going through and moving entire customer workloads across. It's just a matter of making sure that you reach out to the team and we can get you in touch with the right guys at the right time to make sure that we engage with you along these steps. But one thing I did want to kind of concentrate on is looking at the way that we've been working at putting together a program for that Azure acceleration. Now, this is something that we did launch at our Cloud Summit, if you were lucky enough to come along a few weeks ago, and we'll also be talking around this next week at the Microsoft Summit across all 4 days, whether you're going to the biz, the partner, or the tech sessions. Make sure you come along and have a chat to us about how we can get you onto one of these programs. Now, as you can see, we made it nice and simple. There's basically 3 kind of boxes to the program. The first is what we call EasyAzure, and that's really making sure that you've got the basics there, getting onto the MPM programs, jumping onto our Cloud Elevate on-demand sessions that we've got with the lessons from Rob, making sure that you jump on and join webinars such as this. We'll be relaunching our Azure Workload series early next year as well. Then when we get to the point where you might be looking at a couple of different customers there where you want us to help kind of build that project out, whether that be again, small business server, etc. We can make sure that you come along to, one, some of our expert boot camps, which we're about to run again, I'll talk about shortly. But this is where we can get you some one-on-one time with our architects, going through those solutions, kind of scoping those out, doing some one-on-one training where we need to with your technical team. And then looking at moving through to the expert program, where once you've kind of gone and started moving a few customers across, we've kind of got that motion, or you've got some larger customers there where we need to, again, spend some one-on-one time, do that kind of hands-on technical training, but we can also help sponsor you onto that advanced support partner program as well. That way we can look at getting dedicated SLAs and some of that advanced support direct with Microsoft on there. Now, again, if you've already been working with us, our account managers and business development managers will be having a catch-up with you shortly, just about where you might fit within that and looking at teeing up where we can plug you into that program. If you haven't engaged with us on Azure at all, by all means, make sure you reach out and we can get you access onto those EasyAzure kits and onto that on-demand platform for the Elevate series on there as well. Now, when we're talking about Azure, so I mentioned around some of these blueprints that we have. Now, the blueprints that we have are step-by-step guides running through the console in order to be able to look at running up these basic workloads. And you'll see there that we've got 12 packages so far. First being around DR, around backup, around running up SQL databases, file servers, Active Directory, and web servers in there. So again, key workloads that we see when partners are first looking at bringing customers across, things that they need to get their head around to be able to kind of do those basic workloads and then start putting those together in solutions. Now, as I said, everyone has access to these blueprints. All you need to do is, one, reach out to the team or go directly to ingrammicrocloud.com.au/Microsoft-Azure, and you'll jump onto our Azure Acceleration page, and you'll see the registration box there to gain access to all of these blueprints as well. And we will absolutely be building out more and more as we work through the program as well. But very, very easy to get started. As said, reach out to one of the team or head straight along to ingrammicrocloud.com.au/Microsoft-Azure. Now, for those that weren't able to come along to the Cloud Summit and didn't get to have a look at the new features that we have for the Azure platform built into our Ingram Micro Cloud Marketplace. Now, first step, if you haven't already joined the Ingram Micro Cloud Marketplace, make sure you register today. Go to au.cloud.im, simply log in with your existing Ingram Micro details, and you'll have access to the Cloud Marketplace. Now, a couple of things that we've just recently launched specific to Azure on our Marketplace is the ability to do one-click deployment. We've also got enhanced Azure billing functionality within there, particularly around setting up alert services on consumption limits and doing usage reporting by tagged resource groups as well. And there's also been a change to the customer control panel, recently been updated, refreshed with a new look and feel with big buttons, but also dynamic. So you can work with it on your desktop, you can work with it on a tablet, or work with it on your mobile. So literally be able to deploy Azure resources wherever you are, as long as you've got connectivity to the marketplace. So I just wanted to quickly dive in and give you a bit of a preview on what that looks like. So here we are on the Ingram Micro Cloud Marketplace. This is actually on the customer control panel. And you can see there within the marketplace, we obviously have Azure within there. And if we click within there, turning on Azure in the marketplace is actually very, very easy. Because it's a usage-based service, it's actually a $0 SKU. So you don't get charged for setting up an Azure tenant. You only get charged once you start running services within there. Now you'll see here on the new Live Tile button, you actually already get a fair amount of information right at the get-go. So obviously around billing dates within there, you can see current usage and you can see the next billing date within there as well. But if I dive a little bit deeper in there, so as we go to actually look at enabling services in there, you can see within there just a basic price list. So without having to go directly to the Azure calculator all the time, you've got a basic price list within there as well, just to keep an eye on some of those services within there. We do still fully recommend, though, if you're looking at putting together a solution, understanding what those relative costs may be. Obviously, make sure that you go put the full configuration into the Microsoft Azure calculator, and there you can play around with things like usage hours, etc., in there as well. But you've always got a quick reference within the marketplace itself. Now, very, very easy to get it going. So whether or not you've got an existing Microsoft domain, you need to set up a new one, or you want to bring one across, again, you can all do that within the Cloud Marketplace, and then you simply just click Deploy. Now, you'll see a couple of new tabs on here as well. So one, you've got the admin, you've got your Azure prices, you've got your resource usage in there for your billing, but you've also got here the deployment. And so just at the top there, you've got the deploy resources. And this is where we start getting into that whole idea of being able to do one-click deployment for entire solutions. So basically all we're looking at doing here is the ability to build a script, a JSON template, and then actually upload that into the marketplace. Now, you can actually go grab a whole bunch of pre-made ones that are sitting in the Azure GitHub repository. You'll see just a slight taste of literally hundreds of scripts just sitting there waiting to be used across a wide variety of workloads. Now, any of those scripts within there, you can actually just select and upload. So any scripts that are pre-built or you want to build your own, you can actually upload those for future use inside our Cloud Marketplace as well. However, as you can see, we've actually already got a few there ready to go. And funnily enough, the templates that we've got there tend to line up with the click-by-click blueprints that we've got in our EasyAzure program as well. So we've already uploaded things like a web service or a backup vault within there as well. And those scripts are already pre-configured, literally just to click and deploy. And you'll see here, as I'm going to deploy those, I'm only having to put in things like the resource group name, where I actually want to deploy it, obviously the admin parameters within there. But once I've gone and deployed that, that's literally gone into the Azure portal and spun up those workloads, and then you'll just continue working on it as you normally would. So there's no limit as to what you can do within those templates within there, and as I said, you can upload anything you like. Now, the next kind of key feature that we've updated within there is the billing. So within here, within the Azure administration side of things, you can see we can set up email alerts so that if there is coming up to what you think their expected kind of daily budget is, etc., you can give a bit of a warning. And so it will give you a bit of a cue to go in and see what the workloads are happening in there as well. Very, very easy to set up, and you can set that across each of the tenants within there as well. As you can see, you just need to click that you want to use those, insert the budget, and then depend how you want to be pre-warned or once it's hit the budget. Again, very easy to set up, very easy to be able to keep track of that usage in there, so there's no things like bill shock, etc. The other side is actually being able to get that deep dive within the usage reports as well. So we always have a full usage report. You can see literally right down to the second on how these machines are running. But obviously, you may not always want to be able to look at it from a billing perspective, from when we bill you. You might want to look at a particular date as well in case there is an increase in usage, etc. Again, very easy to customize, looking at those billing reports here as well, and obviously download and export to things like a CSV file. The other side with the billing aspect is for partners that are working with PSA platforms such as ConnectWise and Autotask. If you don't know already, we've actually launched a new partnership with the guys from ID Sync that will actually allow us to connect our marketplace into the ConnectWise and Autotask platforms. There's a couple of different areas in how it will connect, things around like AD as well, but importantly is around that billing. So as you go and do the billing for things like Office 365 or Azure, or in fact anything on our marketplace, once you have it tied from the user inside the marketplace across to the user contract inside ConnectWise or Autotask, that billing and usage information will simply just flow through. So again, just looking at ways that we can connect our platform into existing platforms such as ConnectWise and Autotask to make it nice and easy, a lot less admin for our partners using these services. Now, I know there was a bit of a quick run through in there. However, you'll be able to get some deeper one-on-one time with us very, very shortly. We're about to run the second round of our Azure Bootcamps. We'll be running our Azure Accelerate course across Newcastle, Townsville, and Perth. And in Perth only at this stage, we'll be running our Azure Expert session. Now, you see the registration link down there. Basically, the first day is a good introduction to the Azure platform, also considering things like moving across from SBS, and more importantly, how do you actually look at building those into your business from a support and billing perspective as well. Day 2 for our partners in Perth is much more very, very hands-on, getting into the platform, getting onto the portal, looking at things like automation with the scripting and PowerShell, etc. in there. Again, you'll see the link and the dates across on the right-hand side. We'll obviously be sending this out later as well. But if you haven't already, make sure you go on and register straight away. Also, don't forget that we are still running our latest round of the Cloud Movers program. So make sure you're going on and registering your sales across Office 365 and Azure on there. Easy to sign up if you haven't already done so. my.imcloudmovers.com.au. For round 2 of this year, we'll actually be doing a helicopter wine trip through the Hunter Valley. So make sure you sign up, make sure you do the trainings, make sure you come along to webinars such as this, but more importantly, make sure that you register those Office 365 and Azure deals on there as well. Also, as Rob mentioned, next week, from Tuesday to Friday, Microsoft will be holding their Microsoft Summit across their Biz Summit, their Partner Summit, and their Technical Summit. The team and myself will be there across all 4 days. We'll be at booth number 6. Make sure that you come along and see us, or even better yet, make sure that you register now and book in a time for some one-on-one time with the guys, whether that be from our technical team, from our sales team. Make sure that you go on, you'll see it there at bit.ly/cloud4. There's a registration link there. Tee up a time with one of the guys and can sit down and work through your Microsoft plan. And one last thing for me. The Microsoft 365 series is continuing. The next series will be on how to deploy Microsoft 365. That will be on Wednesday, the 22nd of November. All right. Well, that's all from me. If there are any questions, make sure you reach out to us there at imcloudau at ingrammicro.com. We will be sending out a copy of the deck post today's webinar, and we'll be posting this up on YouTube at a later date. But once again, thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Rob, for giving us the latest updates from the Microsoft world, and we will catch you guys all later. Thank you.